You know, have you ever really thought about what goes on inside someone's head when they're making a massive career choice? Like packing up and moving to a whole new country? We all think we know the obvious reasons, but sometimes the actual data tells a story that's, well, way more interesting. Okay, let's get into it.
So, here's the big question, the puzzle at the heart of all this. A brand new study on software engineers in Sri Lanka was trying to figure out what pushes them to migrate. And in the process, they kind of stumbled onto this incredible paradox, something that flips a major psychological theory completely on its head.
Okay, so this is the mystery right here. The standard thinking, the textbook theory, says that the more control you feel, the more capable you are of leaving, the more likely you are to actually pack your bags. Makes sense, right? But this study, it found the complete opposite. So what in the world is going on? To really get it, we need to understand why this question is so important in the first place.
And this isn't just some academic thought experiment. This paradox has huge, real-world consequences. The study zooms in on Sri Lanka's tech scene, which is absolutely booming, but it's also facing this massive threat to its future, a little something called brain drain.
Brain drain is, well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's when a country's most skilled, most educated people, its brightest minds, start leaving for opportunities elsewhere. And for a place like Sri Lanka, which is trying to become a major tech hub, this isn't just a tiny leak, it's a full-on hemorrhage of talent.
And if you want to put a number on it, just think about this. In a single year, the country lost 1,500 software engineers. 1,500. In an industry that lives and dies by specialized skills, that is a devastating loss of creativity, of experience, of future potential.
And the stakes, they are unbelievably high. Sri Lanka has this ambitious goal, building a $3 billion tech industry. But as this study makes really clear, how can you do that when your top talent keeps walking out the door? So you see, figuring out why these talented people leave, that's not just an interesting question. It's a multi-billion-dollar question. All right, so to crack this case, the researchers didn't just go in and ask a bunch of random questions. Nope, they used a really well-known psychological framework. Think of it like a toolkit for decoding why people do what they do. It's called the theory of planned behavior. Now, don't let the fancy name scare you off. The idea behind it is actually super simple and really powerful. Basically, it says that your intention to do anything, whether it's starting a new workout routine or moving halfway across the world, is really just driven by three key things.
So, let's break it down. First up is your attitude. Simple enough. Do you think moving abroad is a good thing for you or a bad thing? Second is social pressure. What do the important people in your life, your family, your friends, your coworkers think you should do? And third, your sense of control. Deep down, do you believe you have what it takes, the skills, the money, the confidence to actually pull it off? Okay, so with this three-part framework in hand, the researchers went out and talked to 161 software engineers in Sri Lanka. They had their predictions, their hypotheses all lined up for what they expected to find, but the results were, well, they were not what anyone saw coming.
And this is where the plot really thickens. So, first hypothesis, a positive attitude towards moving leads to wanting to move. Yep, confirmed, check, makes sense. Second one, social pressure makes you want to move. Surprisingly, no, not really, at least not for everyone. But that last one, the idea that feeling in control makes you want to leave, not just wrong, the result was the exact opposite of what they predicted. All right, let's start with the part that was totally straightforward. The study confirmed, without a doubt, that if a software engineer thinks moving to another country will improve their life and their career, yeah, they're much more likely to want to go. No surprise there. That's a big, clear check mark for hypothesis number one. But remember how we said social pressure didn't really seem to matter overall? Well, that's not the whole story. When the researchers started slicing up the data, looking at different age groups, a really interesting pattern popped out. There was one specific age range where social pressure mattered a lot. What they discovered was for engineers between the ages of 30 and 35, suddenly, the opinions of their family and peers become a huge factor. And that kind of makes sense, right? That's an age where you're often making those big, long-term life decisions about marriage, kids, where you want to put down roots, so you're probably listening to others a bit more closely. All right, so that brings us back to the main event, the central mystery. That totally bizarre, counterintuitive finding about control. Why on earth would the people who feel the most capable of leaving be the ones who are the least interested in going? And here it is. This was the study's most shocking discovery.
They found a strong negative link. The more confident an engineer was in their own skills, the more they felt they could handle the whole process of moving abroad, the weaker their desire to migrate actually was.
So, what does that even mean? Well, the researchers think the connection is just way more complicated than the old theory suggests. Maybe these super skilled, confident engineers don't feel like they have to leave to be successful. Maybe their sense of control isn't just about, I can control my exit, but also, I can control my destiny and build an amazing career right here. It hints that feeling empowered at home might just be the most powerful reason to stay.
So this is more than just a cool academic puzzle, right? The study's findings actually give us some real practical clues for companies, for governments, for anyone who wants to hold on to their best and brightest people.
The study also pointed out a couple of other really powerful things. Turns out, there are two key factors that can seriously weaken someone's desire to leave, even if they think moving abroad is a good idea. The first is just being really satisfied with your current job. The second is feeling like the country is politically and economically stable. These act like powerful anchors, keeping talent right where it is.
So when you put all these pieces together, a pretty clear strategy starts to form. First, you have to pay attention to age-specific issues, like that social pressure hitting people in their early 30s. Next, you've got to boost job satisfaction with real career opportunities. You also have to remember that the big picture stuff, national stability, plays a huge part in these very personal decisions. And maybe, just maybe, the most important thing, you should be investing in your people's skills and development. Not because it helps them find a job somewhere else, but because that incredible sense of control might just be the very thing that convinces them to stay.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. For years, the fight against brain drain has been about trying to match what other countries can offer. But what if this study is pointing to a different path? What if the real key isn't about competing with the pull from the outside, but about building up a sense of empowerment, of agency, and yes, of control from within?